Hey guys, I'm Sean. I created FitStudent.co.uk and today we're going to be talking about training your whole core as opposed to just your abs. Okay, so we all know that, the abs, they look great if they're there. Someone takes the top off and you see their abs, then you think, well, it looks pretty good. But they're not just there to look pretty, they're there for a purpose, which is generally to pull your hips up towards your chest or your chest down towards your hips. And they do that as part of a whole group of muscles which wraps around this area around the abs and the lower back called your core, which you might have heard of but not really sure what the core is. So this is going to take you through what the core includes, like what muscles there are in the core and how you need to train all of them and in different ways to really strengthen the core and help in every other kind of lift. So generally speaking, people tend to think of the core as that area around the abs and the lower back, but it also extends all the way up to the back of your neck with your erector spinae, and it includes your hamstrings and some of the quads as well. So you actually have three groups of core muscles at different layers. You have your deep stabilizing core muscles, which is between the vertebrae of your spine, and they're just little tiny muscles that actually keep the spine in the right place as it bends certain ways or twists and things like that. So there's three of those. You have your rotatories, your interspinales and your intertransversi, and as I said, they just keep the spine in position as you move. And you also have your core trunk muscles, which are the general muscles that people know of, but there's more of them than you think. So generally, you have your abs and your lower back and your obliques, and that's what you usually think of, but you also have quite a few more, and they are the longissimus, the ilicostalis, the spinalis, multifidus, internal obliques, external obliques, the rectus abdominis, the transversus abdominis, and the quadratus lumborum. So what they do is they sort of act as a natural lifting belt. Generally, when people start doing really heavy squats or deadlifts and you see them put that belt on, that really sucks in those muscles. Well, all that does is generate pressure around the lower back to help support that lift, which you can just get from training the core muscles. So they're your natural lifting belt essentially. So why would you bother buying a man-made lifting belt when you've got your own built in, which you can just train and work, and then that'll help with those lifts as opposed to putting a belt on. So then your third layer is the core hip muscles, which includes the psoas major, the iliacus, the gluteus maximus, gluteus medius, the rectus femoris, the biceps femoris, the semitendinosus, and the semimembranosus. So essentially what they do is help to basically move the lower limbs whilst still keeping everything stable. So the core generally is a stabilizing group of muscles, whereas say your chest or your back essentially works to help move your limbs in different directions. So all your core does is keep everything in line and puts pressure on the spine to make sure everything stays in the right place as you move, so you don't get any kind of imbalances or abnormalities coming from doing exercise. So you really need to train the whole thing, because say, if you train your chest and don't train your back, then you end up really hunched over, and you need to fix that, because otherwise you end up with a really bad hunchback. It's the same thing with your core. If you just train your abs and not your lower back and your obliques and all of those other muscles, then that's when a lot of people start getting lower back pain problems. And if you really think about it, pretty much everyone at some point has complained about having lower back pain, and that's most probably why, because if they do train, then they probably focus on the abs and not the rest of the core, or if they don't train, then they have general posture problems like wearing a bag on one shoulder or just generally slouching all the time. So when it comes to training the core, you need to know about the three planes of movement, which is a plane of movement is basically a sort of like line that you can move in. So you have three of those. You have the sagittal plane, which runs from one side of the body through to the other. So that means you can do kind of like move from left to right, side bends, that kind of thing. You have your frontal plane, which goes from the back to the front. So if you move through that, then you do kind of deadlift kind of movements. And then the transverse plane splits you from top to bottom. So that splits you into those two halves, and that includes all kind of twisting movements. So when you train, rather than just sitting on the mat or lying on the mat and doing crunches and leg raises and just working your abs, start making your ab workout a core workout, so you work everything instead. So that includes doing things like back raises, oblique crunches, side bridges, cable chops are my favourite exercise for core day, because you include every plane of movement as you twist from, say you do from the bottom and then you twist up to the top, and that's basically including every plane of movement as you do that. And so really I'd say that was one of the best exercises for your core that you can do. So essentially, tip of the day, start training your entire core rather than your abs. And the article we released this week is along the same lines. This is our first video article, so I'll put a link to that in the description, and then you can go check that out and see some other exercise examples essentially for each plane of movement, and then go from there. Let us know how you get on. Let us know in the comments how you get on, and if you like the video, make sure you press like down there, I think it is, and then yeah, so like the video, leave us any comments for videos you want to see, and of course subscribe to the channel so that you keep updated with all of our videos. And that's it for today. See you next time, guys. There's just one more thing you need to bear in mind. If you're worried that by training your core you won't be able to get that six-pack, don't, because you will be able to get a six-pack, because those muscles will be there, and essentially they'll probably look better because everything else will be really more built and fit better. But the only way you're going to get a six-pack is by sorting out your diet. So make sure you're eating the right kind of foods, otherwise you'll never lose that body fat surrounding the abs and you'll never see them. Okay?